Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Spark Your Creative podcast. I am your host, Sharon Burton of Spark Your Creative Coaching, and I am thrilled to be able to provide this as a service not only to my clients, but also to other creatives that are looking for inspiration and an understanding of where we are at this time as creative people in the United States and really across the world as we continue our um, n- new series, which is, well, it's not so new anymore, but creating under uncertain times. And as the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic continues and other issues emerge from that. We as creatives are still working through a world that's very different than what we may have been in the past. We are dealing with a new variant under this as we are recording this particular episode that started a couple months ago and has some folks in isolation again. Um, Others have been getting sick that may not have been getting sick. Um, and then it's just the uncertainty of things, the uncertainty of whether or not we're actually going to move through this, if there's going to be another side. A lot of people have been dealing with social economic fallout as a result of this. A lot of political issues have been cropping up. It feels like a very uncertain and sometimes divisive energy that's going on. My purpose for this podcast series really is to talk to people who are creatives in a variety of different mediums and fields and practices, and to share their stories and their thoughts about how they're moving through this time with grace, style, and of course, creativity. And today's guest is someone that I've gotten to know in the last few months, and I've been really admiring the work that she's been doing. Um, just like one of my last guests, those of you that follow me closely, I've been involved with Art is Moving and been a part of their programming and their Take an Art Break Day. And I got to know this lady, or she became part of my radar when they interviewed her for a podcast. And I was so moved that I actually decided on my artist side to get involved with one of the activities that she's going to talk about today. So I just want to welcome Deane Bowers to the.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm
Just
delighted to have you. And let me just share a little bit about Deane. So you'll kind of get a sense of her background. She's originally from Richmond, Virginia, and she relocated to Low Country in South Carolina over 10 years ago, and now calls Seabrook Island home. Her inspiration is always found in the beauty and simplicity of the South Carolina coast. She spends much time exploring the lush green marshes and walking the pristine beaches of the Low Country. She is constantly in awe of the spectacular natural beauty, and some days it takes literally her breath away. She loves expressing her joy for living in such a wonderful place through her colorful, unique art. As a self-taught artist, her creative process is guided by two principles. First is to be a responsible environmental steward in every aspect of her life. As an artist, whenever possible, she always uses reclaimed, recycled, repurposed, and eco-friendly materials. Second, she creates art that will be a tiny spark towards making the world a more loving, gentler, and kinder place. She sees it as an honor and a privilege to encourage and promote more positivity and joy through her artwork. And don't we all need that right now? She hopes that she can inspire more people to connect with one another by creatively celebrating kindness and love in her art. She enjoys focusing on positive, inspiring, and uplifting themes. If her art can touch just one person and make a difference in their life, as well as encourage them to flourish, shine, and act kindly towards others, she feels her mission is accomplished. And with that empathic compassion towards humanity and art and the environment, those were some of the things that really attracted me to Deane. So, and we'll talk a little bit about the project that I'm involved with as a result. But how are you, Deane? How is things going?
I am doing great, and it's so nice to see your smiling face. And for those of you all who can't see Sharon, she has the most wonderful megawatt smile.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Makes me feel so much better just seeing it. Lights up a room.
Well, I appreciate that. Sometimes we need to hear things like that. All right, so we're talking about creating during uncertain times, and Deane has actually started a couple projects that we're going to talk about that has gained, one of which has gained some recognition nationally by working with other artists. But we're going to start off by just asking, for your own personal practice, what kinds of creative activities have you been engaged in, or what you're currently working on now?
I'm doing a little bit of everything. I've got some Valentine series going on with hearts. My maiden name was Valentine, so I love anything to do with hearts and the expression of love and celebrating love in all of its many different forms, not just romantic love, but friendship, all of the good ways that people can express love to one another. I'm also working on a series of kindness angels, and I had a series of them. I did 11 of them last fall, and I sold them out within about 2 weeks, and they're just made from repurposed material, and they're just to promote kindness. And I got a shout out by Channel Kindness organization, which was co-founded by Lady Gaga. So I'm hoping to do some kind of small collaboration with them / fundraiser once I get this new series of angels created. So that's about what.
I am just like Lady Gaga's foundation.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with them in my other life, and have been very impressed with the kind of work that they've done. And it's just great that, an organization like that, and I do admire Lady Gaga for a lot of her work and her activism. And that must have been really a thrill. When did that happen?
It happened, last fall, and I reached out to them about the Together While Apart project. So I was able to get on their radar through that project, and just one thing led to another. So I'm hoping to do a small little fundraiser for them. It's still in the works, so nothing concrete yet, but we'll see.
All right. So when the pandemic and everything hit in 2020, gosh, I can't believe this.
I know, we're going on 2 years. It's so hard to believe.
It's just interesting. But anyway, how did it affect you creatively? Did you feel any kind of blocks? Did it inspire you to do different things? And, how did that affect you and your personal creative practice? And you can also share about, the project that you just mentioned and how that came about. But just how did that feel to you as an artist?
Well, I have to admit, first I caved in to all the sadness and the grief, and I had a pity party for about 10 days. And I went in panic mode because a big source of my income as an artist was from traveling to various art shows throughout the Southeast. And so, of course, those were no more. And so I had to figure out how I was going to, A, make money, and B, deal with all the inventory. And along with this, a lot of my brick and mortar galleries were shutting down. And so it was a double whammy. And so, like I said, I had a pity party for a while and felt sorry for myself. And then after much reflection, I thought, I'm going to look back on this period and I'm either going to be really proud of how I handled things, or I'm going to be really disappointed in myself. And I saw people in the throughout the country using their gifts to better each other and to share and to help people get through. I saw, people going online, having Zoom yoga classes and teaching knitting and cooking classes. And I thought, I want to do something like that. I've got these creative gifts and I don't want to just sit here and feel sorry for myself. I want to see how I can figure out a way to use my creative calling for a greater good, as well as build community with other people who might be struggling like myself.
So how did Together While Apart come about? And share with us a little bit about what that is and how you decided to facilitate something as wonderful as that.
Well, Together While Apart is a group collaboration created. There are 19 artists from 9 different states across the country. And I got the idea from a baking company online I follow called King Arthur Baking Company. And they did a small project similar to this with their employees while everybody was in the lockdown. And what they did is they sent squares for other people in the company to sew, and they were going to bring the squares together to make one master quilt, which would then hang in their corporate offices. The problem, and so I saw that and it was in the back of my mind, but I had a couple problems. First of all, I don't know anything about quilting. And I don't know anything about sewing, but I love the idea of everybody having something of similarity, similar sizes and material to work on that could all be brought together in like a old-fashioned quilt. And so I walked around my house for a couple of days and I was trying to figure out what kind of materials I could send people, because we were all on lockdown and it wasn't like we could run out to a craft store and get things. Plus, I wanted this project to be sustainable. And I didn't want anybody to go to trouble of buying things or what. So I literally walked down in my basement, and to get to my basement, I had to go through a hallway that was full of cardboard boxes from shipments I received, and the boxes fell at my feet. And I thought, that's the universe sending me the answer. So I quickly broke up all the boxes and I played with different square sizes, and I came up with 6x6 square pieces would be awesome to bring together. Then I put a call out on the internet. I went to all my social media sites. I was obnoxious. I went to friends of friends of friends, anybody on my mailing list. I sent out a letter via my website, and I cobbled together a group of 19 brilliant, compassionate, kind-hearted artists who all wanted in, unsure of kind of what the final result would be. So I sent everybody a couple of squares, and I said, do whatever floats your boat, whatever is in your heart, whatever way you want to process your emotions and channel what you're feeling. during this period. And I gave everybody about 2 months to send, to work on it and then send it back to me, where I would pull all the squares together in a cohesive collaboration. The beautiful thing is, Pete, when I got the pieces back, they were all uplifting. They were all about hope. They all had a conformity or unity, a synergy. Everybody's piece was uniquely different, yet there was a thread of hope and inspiration woven into each piece. And so I pulled the piece together last March, and then I had the wonderful honor of publicizing it. And I don't know if marketing is the right word, but letting hospitals and organizations throughout the country know what had transpired. And we all decided that it would be very wonderful to dedicate this piece to frontline and healthcare workers as a way of letting them know that we saw what they were doing, we saw their heroic efforts, and we so deeply appreciated what they were doing. And so I did not want this piece to sit in my front hall. I wanted to get it out in the world to spread as much sunshine as it has given me. And so I started working with different medical facilities around the country and health and art organizations throughout the country. And I think everybody just loved our message. A friend of mine said the Smithsonian Institute needs to see this or needs to have it. And at that point, they were shut down, and they had an online exhibit at the time that was called Stories of 2020. And so I submitted this piece, and it was accepted under the arts. So that was very exciting for us. And subsequently, it's been traveling around the Southeast to various medical centers, and it is actually at a museum right now. And it's been permanently acquired and will be installed at the University of Virginia Medical Center in June of 2022, this June. So it was a way of building community and to be together from afar and to feel a connection with other creatives and to pull together and all come together and have the inspiration and the satisfaction that we were using our time and our talents for something larger than ourselves.
So what museum is it in now?
It's at the Hickory Museum of Art in Hickory, North Carolina.
And it will be there until?
February 6th. So it's leaving on Sunday. It will come back to me for a few weeks to be refreshed. And then it will be sent out to the Medical College of Virginia in Richmond, Virginia. And it will be in their central hospital for about 3 to 4 months before traveling permanently on its last stop to the University of Virginia.
Well, I'm going to try to see if I can go and see it. I know.
Oh, I'd love that.
It might be hard to get into the medical center, but
yeah, exactly.
And if nothing else, definitely when it goes to Charlottesville, definitely want to do that. And how many artists were involved with that?
There were 19 from, I'm drawing a blank because I've been so focused on the project you're working with me, from 9 different states.
Okay. And
we had both coasts represented. We had 2 artists from California, which was really fun. And then from the Midwest as well as the Southeast. So it was a wonderful mix. Nobody really knew each other. I didn't know some of the people. I've never met some of the participants in person to this day, but we've Zoom called and exchanged enough emails that we do feel like family. Yeah.
And I actually just want to say I was just so impressed with the number of artists from all over the country. And I guess everybody had different mediums, like you had paint.
They did.
Yeah, and did you have any photography as part of that?
I didn't. That would have been really interesting. Most people were either 2D or 3D artists.
Okay, cool, cool.
I had a couple jewelers too, which was fun.
Oh, really?
And I know. And so they took pieces and wove them into the cardboard and created some beautiful 3D renderings. So it was really fun.
Wow. I am just so, you know, that project to me was so enlightening. And, you know, it was funny because that whole year I was looking for something like that.
Uh-huh.
And though I'm glad, and we're going to talk about this new project, but I was so glad to hear that it actually was happening, because I was like, what are artists doing? I know a lot of them were sharing online, but I was really trying to find group projects. I was involved with a few artist card trading and things of that nature, but I wanted to really get involved with something where we could create like an installation like what you were doing. And I just think that is just so awesome. So awesome. Oh.
Well, and I have to say, it's been one of the most uplifting, satisfying, yet challenging projects I've ever worked on. And I'm so very proud of it. And I'm so proud how it all has turned out. And so segueing into the second project, I learned so much that I could not do another project. I just, as I went along, I would write notes and put it in a notebook, or, you know, you just learn as you go. And I had this wealth of knowledge. I have this wealth of contact. And I said, I cannot just walk away. I've got to do something yet again. So
when I learned about you, you had recently actually put out a call for the second project.
That's correct.
And that's when I contacted you to actually be interviewed for my podcast, but also I wanted to be involved in the freshsART project. And that's, you know, sort of Together While We're Apart, part 2.
That's right.
And, I am working on, for those that are listening, I am working on my little square right now. And I was sharing with Deane that I actually have the concept that I want to work with, and that's coming together. But tell us about the freshsART project. You said that you had lessons learned from Together While We're Apart. So talk about how freshsART started, and what were some of the lessons that you learned from the last project that you are incorporating into this project?
Well, the reason it's called the freshsART art project is because I feel like the pandemic and the lockdown period and how far we've come in the past 2 years has given us the opportunity to make a fresh start, to rethink old ways, to redo old ways. I don't think we're ever going to go back to the way it was before the pandemic. And in a way, you can dwell in a very negative way on that, or you can take it and run with it and make a fresh start. So that's where I got the theme of the fresh start. And what I wanted to do this go around is open it up to anybody, not necessarily creatives and artists, but anybody who wanted to be involved and celebrate fresh starts. And I also wanted to incorporate a big portion of mindfulness, because I think that was such a help for me in the early days of the pandemic, doing some basic reflections. And I just felt like that would be a real gift to bring our group together and to celebrate just our daily lives and all the many blessings that we have that we sometimes overlook in either the panic or the bad news. And I really wanted to encourage the participants to turn inward a little bit and to celebrate being outside and stepping away from social media and just looking at things, looking at trees, for example, with a new light, or celebrating the wind, or or this the sense of smell or taste, just celebrating all that we do have going for us that are so we're so blessed to have. So
I think that's awesome. And as a participant, because it's what, 21 artists that's a part of this?
There are 23 of us, and we're from 10 different states.
Wow. And I'm representing Maryland, and I am.
Yes, yay, because we didn't have a Maryland last time, so we're thrilled to have you.
Yes, Maryland is in the house. I just wanted to make a few comments about my involvement, just so people can kind of get a sense of how special this project is. Deane has assembled 23 artists from across the country, as she mentioned. And when she talks about the mindfulness piece, that's really important, because as highly sensitive people, most, creatives tend to be highly sensitive. Each week, we get a wonderful love letter from Deane.
Thank you.
It's by email. I get mine by email, but I also read it online. We have a Facebook group, and she really breaks it down, some mindful moments. She talks about some things that she's experienced, or observations. And, it's amazingly hits home, because usually some of those, I think there was one that I had even commented on about the importance of walking in nature, and spending time. And I did that morning because I felt the need to do it. And it was so refreshing for me. And I do it often, but since the weather in this part of the world has been almost sub-zero temperatures, not necessarily, we've been in the 20s and the low 30s, and we've had some snow. It's just something that I've found to be very helpful for me for the last few years. And so it was like right on point. Even just things like if you find yourself worrying about something that is beyond your control, or maybe, ruminating over something that you really don't need to be ruminating. She just has these reminders, and she shares them from the heart. And I look forward to seeing those emails, and seeing them
thank you.
Every Sunday. And it just adds a different flavor to the group. I've been a part of some group art projects, but I've never had someone actually take time to do that. And I think particularly during these times, I find those messages to be very comforting and contemplative. And they've been really a blessing to me. And
thank you. That's so nice to hear.
And
go ahead. I was going to say, I write from the heart. So I write as I'm in the thick of it with everybody. It's not as I'm the teacher and you all are the students at all, because I am the first to admit I do not have the answers. What I do is I use the messages that I personally need to hear that week, and hope that others as well might need to hear these messages and resonate with them as well.
I think that's part of the connectivity of these
exactly,
because I think the synergy and the energy of each other, and the things that all of us are experiencing at one point or the other, really lends itself to creating those kinds of mindful messages, but also creating, sort of a sense of connection. We also have, share with them a little bit about the poetry piece.
Oh, okay. Well, we have two group poems going. We have one that is alphabetized, so it's, going down the list A through Z. And then the other one is reverse order. And I wrote the first lines of both poems. They're both about fresh starts. And I mail them off, and everybody receives it's a master copy, and they're encouraged to add a line or two about what a fresh start means to them. And so by the time I receive both poems back, I'm going to have this amazing poetry that is the collaboration of all 23 of us. We'll be able to celebrate and hopefully inspire others. I just thought it would be a really fun way to unite us. And I think we'll remember each other by way of our poetry lines. And some people were like, well, I'm not a writer. And I want to say I'm not either, but I think any of us can come up with a line or two. I don't know that necessarily it's poetry. It may be more like prose, but I think it's a beautiful way to tie us all together and to use another format to promote inspiration and positivity and celebrating new beginnings and fresh starts.
I think that is just a beautiful way of bringing the literary arts into this project. And it also gives a certain level of, I don't know what the word I want to use, but it may be humanness to the piece that we are creating, because it's one thing to see art and appreciate that, but then you hear the voice of the artist as part of this, poetry. And it was just right up my alley because I had just started writing poetry and prose. And
I love that.
I'm like, wow, she's even incorporated. I have to, this was something definitely I needed to be a part of. And so the whole combination really worked for me. And I am, confident that we will get the same kind of enthusiastic response from across the country as you did with the first project. Because I think by the time this really goes out, I am, fingers crossed that we will be kind of on our way to a fresh start in this country and the world.
I hope so.
In dealing with COVID and everything else that has kind of happened.
Real quick, one of the reasons I really wanted to expand on the writing and the mindfulness prompt is because many of the people who are involved in this second project are not artists, are not creatives. However, they know what a fresh start is all about, whether they've been through a divorce, a big move. We've all had to make fresh starts, but some of these participants even more so recently, and they've had to pull themselves up and start again. And they may not be artists, but they've experienced a fresh start. So it was really important for me to find a way for them to express themselves that wasn't just through the visual arts. And so what better way than just to be able to write a few words about their experience. So oops. Sharon, there you go. The sun keeps following me. I'm all lit up. I hope it's not too much.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It makes you glow, actually.
Oh, thank you.
My final question to you is, you have such a cheerful personality and a sense of community, and you've done such a wonderful job bringing creatives and people who don't consider themselves creative to be a part of this project and to have a voice in some way through the pandemic. What is your advice to fellow creatives and artists like yourself who may be struggling in some kind of way through this whole 2-year project, period rather? They may be stuck, or they may feel unmotivated to create, or whatever they're creating they're not pleased with because they feel like they can't bring their all to it, or maybe they might be in situations where the pandemic has kind of cramped their style in a sense because they don't have the spaces or whatever to support to continue to create because of life circumstance due to the pandemic. What are some things?
I think protect your space, protect your mindset. For me, turning off the nightly news was big, and limiting my time on social media and getting outside, having rest, and making sure I walk. so that I can hear myself. I can hear what's in my heart. It's not clouded with the news of the day or the art race, the comparisons on Instagram or Facebook. So I could strip it all back to the foundations and really live simply. And that has helped me through. I also am fortunate to have my art studio at home. And I go in there every single day, whether I pitter around and rearrange paint or I actually scribble or draw. And to me, that's just so therapeutic. Just feeling the actual materials has helped. But I think the biggest thing is getting outside in nature and just walking and not complicating things with distractions and noise and just being silent.
Okay. I think that's a wonderful ideal. And, you know, as someone who does that myself, that's something that I, you know, definitely say, you know, if you can, and if it's safe to do so, you know, to get out and to, even if it's not your immediate neighborhood or whatever, going to a local park or, you know, an area where, you know, you can, you know, breathe the air and take in the colors, even during the winter, you know, and when we're taping this, we're in the middle of winter. And, you know, we've been getting snow and different things, but there are some days that are wonderful to get out. And even with the snow, if you're able to enjoy the beauty of winter and what that brings. And that also often gives you a sense of calm and peace, if possible.
And
So
one of their recent mindfulness prompts was befriending winter, because I hate being cold. Yes. And so I wanted to encourage other people that this winter will pass, but there's so many blessings that this season offers if we are receptive to these blessings.
I think one of those things is the ideal of stillness, you know.
Exactly.
You know, I did a winter solstice talk in December, and one of the things that I sort of challenged artists and creatives is to take advantage of the sense of stillness and being able to contemplate and plant seeds for what it is that you want to create later this, you know, in the year, and being able to really think through that, because, you know, even though a lot of us are, you know, on whatever lockdown is for you, you know, or anybody's definition of that these days, you know, it's still busy. I mean, you know, to me, at least for me, I still feel hectic, you know. I may not be going into a building every day to work, but I do a lot of work at home, you know, and, you know, deadlines still are deadlines, you know, family issues are still family issues, you know, all of that is still in your house, you know, and, you know, if you can take advantage of really taking in what the atmosphere of stillness is as a part of winter, and what nature is showing us about stillness in winter and the hibernation feeling. Because, you know, spring is coming, no matter what's going on, spring is coming. And with that energy, the spring energy, you know, we will move forward if you feel that you're stuck. But just know that and honor where you are right now, the pause, the reflection, the hibernation, the ideals that are coming up, and recording those ideals and getting a sense of what it is that you want to create. I recently, you know, did that. And in the last week, I came up with some ideals that I hadn't even thought about. You know, I had thought about, you know, they were dancing in my head, but because I got still, I could really bring them to fruition and bring them forward. And I was like, wow, that is just awesome.
Sometimes boredom is their best friend for that very reason. Because we're human beings, not human doings. And especially coming after the holiday season, it's important to restore our energy and the winter is just a time for that quietness. And I take my cue from nature, like I encouraged our group to see what nature's doing and take the lead from Mother Nature, because she knows best.
She does, and the world keeps spinning. So
that's right.
Thing, and again, taking a clue from that and letting the ideals come. So how can people find out more about you, Deane? How can they find you online?
Okay. Well, first of all, if you want to follow our freshsTART art project, we are on Instagram at the freshsTART art project. If you want to learn more about the Together While Apart art project, we are also online on Instagram. And then my personal Instagram is Deane V. Bowers Art. And my Facebook is Deane V. Bowers Art. And then my website is www.deanevbowersart.com. And I would love for people to really look at the freshsTART art project on Instagram, as well as the Together While Apart project on Instagram, because I've started to share some of their mindfulness prompts with the greater interwebs, in hopes that not only can we touch the 23 participants in our group, but also hopefully give people who come across our page some wonderful uplifting reminders to just celebrate the ordinary gifts of each day.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Deane.
Oh, thank you, Sharon.
It's been a joy to work with this project, but it's also been a joy to interview you for this and for your for sharing, how
thank you.
To make lemonade out of lemons.
Well, have me back when this project is finished.
Most definitely. I really
so
would.
I can tell everybody about the final outcome. Right now, we're in the process of each artist creating their squares, and I'm slowly starting to receive them, but we're still an ongoing process, and I'm not sure how long it's going to take or when it will be finished, and it really doesn't matter because we're all about the process.
Most definitely. And I am so honored to be a part of this, and I'm so glad that we connected, and I'm really looking forward to helping, to continue to push this project out and promote it. And I hope that those of you that are listening or watching can be inspired by this, maybe to make your own installation project, with a group of artists that or opening it up to artists that you don't know. But it's still an opportunity for community. You don't have to work in isolation. But this is just an example of how we as creatives can move forward with really getting our messages out, and also acknowledging that we, in a sense, are frontline workers. I always say that. And I, of course, not taking away from those that are in the medical field, really on the front lines, but we're communicating a lot of how people are feeling. And our role is important. And if there's a way that you can get your work out there, a way that you can express or even galvanize others to express themselves, whether they're artists or not. I mean, in this project, we have people who aren't considered artists. I think all of us are, but
That's right. Well, and I will say I had no blueprint for either of these projects. More so, I knew what I was doing more with this second project, but I want to encourage your listeners, if you have an idea, just say yes to it and run with it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. If you can find people who are willing to join in and support you, you'll figure it out as you go along. That's certainly what I did with the Together While Apart project. And so I've taken what I've learned from that and applied it to the second project, but it's not necessarily the same blueprint. And so, if you've got the urge, then go for it.
Absolutely. And that's what this whole podcast series is about, is really just exposing you to what ordinary people, these aren't celebrities or big time folks, These are people like you and me that are creative, that are artists, and are finding ways to connect, to get a sense of community,
Right.
and to bring our expression out to the world, and hopefully add to a sense of healing.
That's
Because,
right.
I think we're going to need some healing even when things calm down for a long time, because a lot has happened compact in this, right now 2-year process of getting through. Again, thank you, Deane.
Oh, thank you.
And to my listeners, this again is a service of Spark Your Creative Coaching. I am a creativity coach, and I work with creators, especially those at midlife, to regain, reclaim, or to rediscover their creative gifts. And you can find me on Facebook at Spark Your Creative Coaching, and on Instagram at Spark Your Creative. Until the next episode, thank you and stay creative. Bye-bye.
Thank you.